present here, all the members, visitors, as well as the guests. Welcome to the Mask Leadership Leaders Connect, a special episode 010, where leaders create more leaders. My name is Prakash Sharma, the founder director of Bija Training and the author of the book, The Mask Leadership. The Mask Leadership community is built with the mission of creating 1,000+ leaders where week after week, every Wednesday, and this since has been a special episode on Saturday, which has been kept, where we invite a key corporate top management leader from the corporate company, where they will share their success stories and life experiences, which will in fact create and influence all the other members in this particular community who drive to get into the top management leadership position. So that's what we have kept as leaders create more leaders. So currently we are all the participants here today are muted and time being, and we will give you an opportunity to interact with the guest, and we will be unmuting you throughout this particular episode as well. And let me also share that we are live on YouTube and this is being recorded. So with that, if you all are ready to start off this week's episode, special episode with our guest, Mr. Padmakar K. So please type in the chat box ready, and then we will start introducing our guest first. So kindly type in the chat box ready, and let me see how many ready is coming up in the chat box. One is being seen, and yes, that's going again. Thank you, time as well. So let me give you a quick brief about Mr. Padmakar. He is married to Miss Monica, and Miss Monica is an MA in Yoga Shastra. She is completely Yoga Shastra adept. And he has one son, name is Ishan, and he has completed his MA in Developmental Studies from TIS. And now currently is working with Save the Children, which is in Mumbai. And Mr. Padmakar's hobbies, he loves painting and likes to listen to music. I've seen a lot of painting on his Facebook as well. And he loves photography, books, travel, culture. His favorite sport has been like watching athletic events of all kinds. And there's something more to talk about Mr. Padmakar. Definitely you all will get to know more about today's corporate leader. But let's understand his professional background experience through this video. And the video is here. Excellent. So thanks very much for everyone. Let's type in the chat box, welcome Mr. Padmakar, and let's type in the chat box, welcome Mr. Padmakar. And I would request Mr. Padmakar to turn on your video as well as the audio, please. Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Padmakar, for being in here in this platform, the Mask Leadership Community.
Yeah, very good evening, Prakash and all the participants. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here.
It's my pleasure, sir. Thanks very much. It's in fact even our honor that you have been here. Thank you very much. That's really been great. And we are currently 37 and they will be joining us shortly as well. And let's start with our particular topic, which has also been given, where leading without authority. And definitely, Mr. Padmakar sir, you being the chairman and the managing director currently, as well as the HR director's role, a lot more to listen to you. But let me just ask you this particular question. Maybe understand some of the insights of how do you feel, or the importance of leading without authority from you? What is your understanding and what is it you feel? And how you're able to apply this leading without authority in BPCL? Sir, I believe you're muted. Let me unmute you one moment. Yeah, now it's fine, sir.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, that's clear.
Yeah. It's a very interesting proposition by way of a question which you have shot at me. Is there really something called leading without authority? Uh, because I do believe that there are two kinds of authorities. One is that you derive from the position, which is the kind of chair that you sit in, depending on the hierarchical level. It can be anything. It can be from the starting level of the organization, maybe to the highest level. But one thing one must always understand is that even if you're the chairman of the company, you always have a boss, which may be the customers, the stakeholders, and in our case, it's the government of India. So you're never without a boss, ultimately. So if that is so, you have to manage multiple bosses as you go along. Like in my case, there are the parliamentary committees, the secretary petroleum, the joint secretaries, the honorable minister, and any honorable minister in the cabinet can call you up at any point in time and speak. How do you manage this? Does it come by position that you're a chairman or so and so and they listen to you? No. I think, therefore, one of the fundamental premise I believe in is there is always an authority everyone carries, which is deep inside us, which is what I call the self-authority. How much do you believe in what you know? How much you believe in what you apply? And how quickly can you think on your feet at a point in time and therefore try to work out a solution? And one of the fundamentals is that it's any organization, whether you call it an NGO or a hospital or even your own setup, for example, it's a people setup, like what really happens in families too, where there are people without any positions at all and who completely control you, like your grandmother, someone with what's called passive aggression. And they have no position. They are not the patriarch, and the patriarch also has to listen to them. So ultimately, it's your self-authority which really plays out in terms of how do I co-balance myself with the self-authorities of many others who sometimes don't invoke the positional authority, don't invoke the self-authority also. How do I manage both these two? And I think I firmly believe in one thing, that ultimately it's a person who brings a lot of dignity and power to the position that you are in. Position does impart certain things to you up till a point, but finally it's the person who's occupying the position at that point in time who also brings in a whole lot of clarity and many other things to that. So when you speak about, therefore, so what do you call it? Influencing without authority. I think we do influence all the time with our own self-authorities in very different ways. And it's through thoughts, it's through a lot of feelings, and it's through a lot of actions. And you have to be sensitive enough to look up, where are you? And where is Prakash as I'm talking to you and many others? And what exactly is happening? And can I pick up the cues and go by it? Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderfully shared, Padmakar. So that there's something called self-authority is very much required, is what you feel. And then that is there within us every moment. That's when we need to identify the cues. And something which you really excellently told, that it is not about the authority, it is about the person. And that's something which is very, very catchy. So I always used to share this particular...
Prakash, you must be having children, or you dealt with children. A newborn baby can't everyone in that family at that point in time. There's no position at all.
Yeah, rightly said. Wonderfully shared. So very, very good, very relevant example which has been given. There is no position, in fact, true. So it's all, in fact, I would say that it is growing is not only in the position, it's actually in the people. And that's where you have been sharing as well. Yeah, wonderfully shared. So just a little more in depth, I'm very curious to know, in fact, how one side, you have the two sides, right? So on the one side, you are also chairman and managing director, where a lot of strategic interventions and we need to discuss about the future aspects about what BPCL is. And the other side, we also have the employee engagement as a HR director. So the two big dual roles is what you're actually playing. So we would like to know the secret as how at this top level position, how you're able to manage these two, and that will be really helping other leaders as well who are there in this particular community.
Prakash, the only thing that has happened to me by holding a charge of chairman and managing director,
Okay.
that I'm able to see the CEO perspective of HR, which otherwise probably I would have been missing, and trying to manage only the HR perspective vis-a-vis the CEO. Um, but one thing I understand is that as you get into strategy, even sitting in the boardroom in any position that you're in, and then if you're doing dual roles of HR as well as C and MD, understand the value of a lot of potential that can be really, really deployed by people in terms of every simple change initiative that you're looking about. And like our ancestors have told us, everything begins with a very small step. And in every step of the way, you cannot ignore anyone who it is. Otherwise, someone gets left out and then tries to put a wedge over there and then try to block the progress over there. Uh, so the wisdom for us lies in terms of understanding that you just cannot ignore anyone. You just cannot take anyone for granted merely because you seem to be in a position and then issue a command. Those days of command and control are over long back. I think it must be over maybe 50, 60 years ago. It took time for people to understand it doesn't work anymore. So sitting in this, co-balancing both, it helps me in terms of understanding how is it we need to make the people move forward in terms of their own capacities. But mind you, not being manipulative, because you can be very manipulative in HR
Yes.
in terms of trying to get someone deliver goods at that point in time, promising a lot of things. But that to me is not pure HR. That's a lot of manipulation game. But pure HR is that by which I care for you. I tell you that, look, you have a whole lot of things with you. You have complete stakes in this organization as long as you're with us. And can you grow with us? By what methods can you grow with us? And if you think that you need some help to grow, to perform a certain thing, I'm willing to give you that, which may be shifting into a role, a particular geography, a particular business line, or you need to be sent abroad suddenly because you need to pick up that and so that you can really take off. So these are the kind of powers you get also co-holding the position of a chairman, which otherwise you'll have to go and convince a chairman. I think, boss, we need to do all these things and then why use budgets? So you don't have budgetary constraints. You don't have thinking constraints. And you simply ask, why can't we do this? So there are lots of pluses in holding multiple roles. But of course, the stresses are also there because then sometimes you need to end up taking a very levitated role about HR. It gives you a third party perspective even about yourself. How good are you operating as a HR director? This is the challenge of the situation. So it's like both inside out. So sometimes you have to take an outside view, and sometimes you need to take an inside view and then operate that.
Just being said that, I just have one more question. When you're handling these two roles, where is most of your time being taken? As a chairman, CMD, looking for strategizing more about what we need, or related to what we have the current situations as a HR? Where is most of your time is actually been taken?
It's obviously being that of the top man.
Perfect.
Obviously that of the top man, because you are looking at everything. You're looking at refineries, about the intricate operations of which you don't really understand, but you know the significance of it. You're looking at the marketing infrastructure, which is all across every single part of the country, maybe a little bit of Northeast you leave out, otherwise we are there everywhere. We are looking at some of the company's assets abroad, which are the oil fields and so on, what's happening over there. Your focus is also with the government, who involve you in a lot of their planning and then perspective sharing and a lot of active cooperation, execution, and so on. So you have to think strategy, you will have to execute, you have to be in touch with everyone, what's happening, and constantly you're there, you're checking your mobiles, you're checking your mails, looking for video, it can be anything. But somewhere in the midst of all these things, you do need to find time for HR. So if that gets neglected, then many babies cry in the organization. So you do that too. But yes, without doubt, it's more about.
That's wonderfully shared, sir. So just a little more deeper insights now that we are understanding how about the future and developments with respect to the future, as we're talking about, more insights have been spent in terms of as a chairman. But let's come down. What developmental or leadership development is being taken at BPCL, if you can just understand, and what are those ways, so that will be really helping to understand what are those leadership development strategies being taken to ensure that people are more important, is where you're told. It is just not the position, it is more about the people. So how do you add value so that what leadership development strategies are being taken?
Prakash, generally people believe leadership development means it begins in a classroom. But classroom is a point when you come there to understand the developmental perspectives that you have been experiencing, and then trying to fill the gaps and to add layers to it until you come back to a classroom setting again. So the first thing that traditionally we have always believed in is that a lot of development happens to you at the work spot, in the kind of the work you do, the kind of coaching you get, the kind of guidance you get, the kind of perspectives you're given. The focus is always in terms of, if I'm sitting and operating in a box, let's say as a deputy manager somewhere down the hierarchy, and there's a little box in which I choose to operate, will you remain within that? Or how do I expand your boundaries gradually so that you're able to understand the perspectives of at least 2-3 layers above you? So you're never reactive, but you're proactive all the time. And in the process, you understand how your seniors 2-3 levels above you keep operating. That has been the endeavor. But as you know, people are people. So there is a certain percentage, fortunately for us, a large bulk of that percentage, around 40%, I can say, they pick up this aspect and they zoom ahead. The focus is also in terms of ensuring that the balance 60%, how do we move them up the performance curve all the time? So then thereafter, we have a lot of mandatory programs for them, right from induction. It's a 6-monthly program, and thereafter they are made in charge of a particular position in terms of whatever they have to do. Then mid-career, we have at least 2 programs. So broadly, we have 4-5 layers called managing self. There's a lot of focus on self in terms of multiple sides of self. Wonderful. As you know that. Managing others, there comes a point in time, you're not just an executor, you are also having certain people reporting to you, executing to you. Next is called managing managers, managing businesses, and finally people leadership. And some of these are also infused horizontally with a lot of programs which are of the functional nature, which may be sometimes purely technical, sometimes functional with behavioral and leadership combined. And wherever required, top performers who are identified as the stars of the organization, who are being groomed to move forward in the company hierarchically and take leadership positions. I'm always looking for someone who can replace me and do my work so I can go on 15 days holiday. So that's a pleasure for me, and I never feel threatened. But a lot of people feel threatened by that. My absence being felt. So one of the perspectives from which we always try to do is, can I take a 1 week break for whatever reason, say COVID or something forces a break, and the organization can move on beautifully in spite of that. So these are the efforts that go on all the time in terms of the programs. But going forward, we are also planning to get into levels of professional certification as to by what methods in different functional areas and competencies
Perfect.
can I get certified at different points in time.
Great.
Otherwise, as you know, in Indian managers and employees, typically having a complete life cycle within the whole organization, you tend to be a little too caring in terms of, am I hurting someone by saying you seem to be wanting in something? So they end up overgrading you, overrating you, and at the end of the day, you find everyone is so beautiful, but I have no leader at all. So how do you prevent that? So that always been a concern for us. So this is the kind of program that we want. Uh, but to put it mildly, the most important thing is we have a process by which we make it mandatory for people to grow vertically in the hierarchy.
Great.
They must experience different roles, different business lines, different entities, and different geographies of the country. And only then we see them as fit enough to come into a leadership role. This is mandatory for us. We call it an integrated career development framework. It is the components of your self-level performance management, your competency management, as well as performing different roles in different verticals, different geographies, different roles, and that apart the leadership part of it.
Great, great. Wonderfully shared in terms of the complete understanding about how the leadership development operates. Just on the other side, one more question before we go to a quiz. We actually have a quiz as well. But before we go to the quiz, one more important question. Now the future in terms of is getting into more of solar as well as is more into electric. I'm sure fossil fuels in the upcoming future may not be as high as now how it's been. So maybe understand what are the developments being taken, because we understand BPCL is a homegrown organization and there's so many people been working. So what are the steps for the future which being taken if there is going to be more of an electric and more solar rather than the fossil fuel? So how the leadership or how about the employees, how are they going to be adapting to this kind of a culture?
Prakash, different eras in the organization, there are different people who want to adapt and then stay and grow. And there are some who throw up their hands and say, I'm sorry, I don't think I'll be able to take it, despite anything that you do. Because we can't expect everyone to be leaders and everyone to be very adaptive, adding to their capacities all the time. There is a point of fatigue which sets in some people more easily than others. It's very person-centric. So one is, we are not exactly homegrown. Oil sector, while you call it as homegrown at one level, at level, oil sector has always been very exposed and influenced by the global and world developments and with the government policies, and because the whole economy depends on energy of any kind of energy, whether it's oil or electric power or any kind of power. So therefore, one bit of correction required is it's always we vis-a-vis the world, what's happening. And so therefore, there's an extreme volatility at all points in time, which affects us. The three primary things which affect us every minute, which our guys are constantly on the lookout, is the global crude oil and its play, its rates, which global economies are working with you, working against you. Suddenly someone is getting sanctions by the US, and so on, so on, so on. So to whatever plans you have made and then commitments you have made for picking up all this, you have to be very quick in your thinking. Second one is the ever fluctuating forex rates. And the third one is what we call as the product cracks in terms of prices, the global prices. These are the things which affect the fundamentals of the national economy
National.
all across the world.
True.
India included. And then you take it downwards into BPCL. So that's a sector which you're always dealing with. So you're ever connected outside. Second thing we are connected with is the energy changes after the Paris protocols of 2015
Okay.
in terms of reducing the carbon footprints and encourage carbon sequestration at the ground level so that the climate is not dramatically altered and the whole mankind and the universe progresses. So the Indian oil industry, we included, all of us are constantly working towards that. So therefore you see there's a lot of foray of compressed natural gas stations.
Mhm.
We're also moving into PNG, petroleum natural gas,
Natural gas. Yeah.
domestic consumptions. There have been plans in terms of reducing firewood usage and to have cleaner fuels to the poorer sections of the society
Great.
through the PMUY program. And going forward, we're also putting electric chargers in our forecourts, which otherwise deal with just petrol and diesel.
Mm.
We're also foraying into solar. We're also looking at battery swapping. We made some initiatives at a point contact places in Lucknow and Kochi to begin with three-wheelers,
Okay.
the auto segment. We have a tie with Kinetic, and depending on how it works, we need to take forward. But at the same time, the battery lithium as a commodity is extremely limited in the world.
Mm.
So globally also, there have been a lot of research going on in terms of can we use hydrogen fuels technologies and so on, but hydrogen is extremely unstable. So there's a fear of explosion all the time. So how to co-manage the entire energy basket, including we are venturing into biofuels.
Wonderful.
Can we get alcohol, ethyl alcohol from food waste, not just from the sugarcane molasses, so that part of it can be infused into petrol, reduce the sulfides and many other things.
Okay.
So there's a whole lot of works going on, and then we are completely clued in, and they firmly stay with our strategy plans all the time.
Wonderfully shared, sir. In fact, we're able to see the next couple of years down the line, at least 10, 15 years down the line, we're able to see what all will actually be coming in. So thanks very much for sharing this. I would just take another couple of minutes in introducing or sharing about the last week's quiz winner, and we'll be taking a short quiz now as
Sure.
what all you have told, and then we'll again come back to you. Good?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much. So the members and the visitors who are here in the particular room today, I'm sure we all have been listening to Mr. Padmakar and excellently been told about the leadership development cycles as well as what the way forward in the future. A lot of insights which I've got from him. So let me just share, I'll be going to ask you a quiz now. So let me see how many people are really able to answer. So before we share the particular quiz for this week, let us see who was the quiz winner for the last week. And the quiz winner for the last week is Mr. Arun, who is actually the data analyst from Dentsu International. So congratulations, Arun. You have actually won the last week was the Mask Leadership 360-degree assessment, which you have won. So thanks very much, Arun. Thanks very much for being in here as well. So let's see who is the lucky winner for this week, who is going to get the Mask Leadership 360-degree assessment for them. The people who are going to answer this question correctly, that person is going to get this tool. So the 360-degree assessment is very simple. Some people may be knowing it. It's about your leadership competencies, where your superior would rate as well as your subordinate, your customers and your colleagues. The 360-degree, there's been a rating on about some of the leadership competencies about you, and we'll be giving you a detailed 6 pages report about where are your improvement areas and strong areas. So let's see who's going to get that report complimentary in this particular session. The question which I'm going to ask you, so please keep your fastest fingers first, and the questions I'm going to ask you is, as the first question I asked about the leading without authority. In fact, Mr. Padmakar told there is one authority is there which we generally use. So what is that authority? So let me see who is answering this particular question correctly. when we shared about leading without authority. So, yeah, Mr. Suresh T, I believe, has identified it correctly, which talks about the self-authority. Wonderful, Mr. No, that is not Suresh. Suresh was a little late. That means I believe Manoj Prabhu. So Manoj Prabhu, I believe you have answered it right, and that was the fastest fingers first. Leading without authority. Here came an exact example saying that one is the position. It is just not the position where we need to, but it's very important is the people. And there is talking about the self-authority plays a role. So good one. So Manoj Prabhu, can we please unmute yourself and turn on your camera so that we'll be able to see you, Manoj Prabhu. Mr. Manoj Prabhu. Thank you very much, Mr. Manoj Prabhu. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Great, Manish Prabhu. Thanks very much. So congratulations for winning this Mask Leadership 360-degree assessment. So may I know what is your background, Manoj? Where do you work?
I'm the promoter of Venus Wedding Resort in Kanchipuram.
Wonderful.
Before this, from 2004 to 2008, I worked in an organization called NTPC. I joined as officer HR. So I'm also from HR background, but that was a long time back. I quit NTPC in 2008.
Wonderful.
So after that, I have been self-employed. Currently, Venus Wedding Resort, Kanchipuram. That is our project.
Great.
And I wish to express my heartfelt thanks to Sri Padmakar. And I'm excited to see that DHR is also the CMD of such a huge organization as BPCL. And many thanks to Prakash and your Mask Leadership organization to bring Sri Padmakar to all of us. And we are very privileged to hear whatever he has had to share today. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Excellent, Manoj Prabhu. Thanks very much. So Manoj, since you actually had given the right answer, so you also get an opportunity. If you have any question to ask Mr. Padmakar, you're always welcome to ask any question to him. So if you have any question, Mr. Manoj. That's all of a sudden I'm asking, is it? So that's completely fine. I completely understand, Manoj. So anyhow, so please do stay in touch with me. My number will be there in the chat box and you'll be able to interact with me and we will let you know how you will be receiving this, the Mask Leadership 360-degree assessment for you. Great. So now it's the open to the questions time. So there are most of our leaders here in this particular room today. So who would like to ask any question to Mr. Padmakar? So where Mr. Padmakar will be privileged to answer to your respective questions. So kindly raise your hand or unmute yourself. Yeah, as usual, definitely we always have Raguraman. Definitely Raguraman, we will be unmuting you. So, yes.
Can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening to you.
It is a pleasure for me to have a interaction. I am not here to ask any question. I'm not that much competent. I need a clarification from you. First thing is, because you are a man of rich experience. There's a saying, be with the company, breathe with the company, live with the company, die with the company. This is a Japan principle. So you are a person, be with the industry, live with the industry, and don't die with industry, petroleum industry.
True.
So such a high position you are holding there. I'm very happy, sir. I need a clarification. The leadership authority is vested by virtue of the position or through managing the people around you, probably by any level, maybe the middle level or senior level, vice president level like this. It is by through managing the people, the purpose you gain the authority. Which one is very important thing, sir?
I will just give you one simple research which Harvard Business School did some years back.
Yes, sir.
It's a very fundamental thing. It's a difference between what they call as an affable fool and a competent jerk. That's exactly the language they've used. It's not my word. Jerk otherwise is seen as vituperative in nature. So what they say is there may be someone may be extremely competitive, brilliant, intelligent, but ultimately if you're not affable, you can't succeed at all. And a second quality that works with it is as competent as you are, as capable you are, as knowledgeable as you are, as successful as you are, you know, if you don't have, as you go up, if you don't develop that humility to understand that your success is not just by yourself, it's also because of several others. Your seniors have pulled you up, your peer group has collaborated with you, a whole lot of teams of, you know, subordinates have enabled you. So if you're not thankful, if you're not humble enough to acknowledge that all the time and stay centered in that spot of humility all the time, very soon one falls. Very soon one falls, and you don't even know when that happens. So I would say it is ultimately that. It's a codependent system. There's no one can say that it's because of me everything has happened at all.
Yes.
So I don't know whether I answered your question or.
No, absolutely right, sir. This is not vested authority. As you right, the people are there. You are with the people, be with the people, live with the people. People are the person who lift you up for the particular level. Always humility. Humility plays a vital role.
Dr. Raghuraman, it's not always people. Sometimes they let you down so badly. So many a time you'll have to rise like a phoenix and also be extremely firm that they have not seen that side of you. So let me not say that it's all sugar and honey.
Yes.
It's multiple methods.
Other side of the coin also we got to see. Yes, yes, absolutely right, sir. I agree. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, sir. And we have two more questions here. People have raised. One is Kalyani Hariharan and Ramakrishnan. But before we go to their respective question, Padmakar sir, that was really wonderfully shared about the humility which actually plays a role for a constant growth. And as you keep growing, the more and more humble we are, and that really gives the other person the understanding that how the growth happens, and it's all about your superior, subordinate, and collaboration with people. So growth definitely comes. That's something that's very, very interesting for me. Thanks very much. So let's go with one more question, sir. I believe Ms. Kalyani Hariharan has. So Ms. Kalyani Hariharan, we are unmuting you. Please go ahead with your question. Yes, Kalyani Hariharan.
Yes, very good evening, Mr. Padmakar and Prakash.
Yes.
Good to be part
Good
of
evening.
this.
Good evening.
I have one question. What is the one mindset change that you perhaps had to do when you took over as CMG BPCL with along with your HR director? Was there any mindset change that you immediately had to adapt?
Yeah, there is. The first thing I had to be very careful about was till the other day, many on the board were my colleagues, and suddenly I'm also told as wearing an additional hat of a chief. I need to take them along, and I have not changed at all. So the first thing I had to go and be my natural self with them and say that, look, I have not changed one bit. There is an extra bit, and but yeah, I'm with you at any point in time, and you're with me all the time. I'm counting on you. So this is one thing that I had to say, and I had to be extremely careful that I'm only holding charge. I'm not a permanent chairman and managing director till the government chooses to appoint someone. So when you're a caretaker, when you're like a regent guarding the throne for a next prince to take over as a king, sometimes it may not happen and I may retire still holding charge. But I also need to be ready when the tall, dark, handsome prince comes in. I need to bless him and then make him stay on and go back to my seat and also support him at that point in time. So that's a mental shift, Kalyani, I really had to make and be very acutely conscious of that this is not the end of the story. And like they say, when you reach the pinnacle of Mount Everest, immediately after, you can't stay on the pinnacle for long. Immediately you need to come down, otherwise you'll die of breathlessness. Yeah. So any CEO position is also like that. So one cannot hope to stay there forever. You'll be frozen to death. And it's only a dead body that will come down and then not you as a person. So I have to be very, very careful about these. So anyone who's aspiring to reach very senior level positions, we need to be careful that post-retirement, no one is going to look at you unless you happen to stay in touch with people and you're humble enough and also have no expectations. They'll come and do a salutation to you every day. Don't do that. I think respect has to be commanded by the way we behave. It just cannot be demanded. That's one of the simple maxims I've been living by. When I was growing up as a schoolboy in Chennai for a few years, um, I didn't know Tamil at all because I moved from Hyderabad. In PTC buses, there used to be Thiruvalluvar statements in two lines in very high Tamil, which I learned to read, but I could never understand. So I used to ask some uncle who was next to me, Uncle, what does this mean? He used to explain. So one thing which stayed with me forever is, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. That's one of the two-liners which used to be in PTC buses when I was a kid in the 70s. So I think those are some of the maxims that have stayed with me because you can't fake this. If you fake again, you're being manipulative and you're being very inauthentic. You need to ingrain that into yourself. Yeah.
Excellent.
Answered your question, Kalyani.
Oh yes, I believe she's been.
Thank you so much, and I really love the analogy of the you get frozen and you need to come back. That's a brilliant analogy. I mean, I think that all of us should take it. Thank you so much, sir.
Sure. Great, Kalyani. Thanks very much for asking that particular question. I'm sure we'll go with one last question for today with Mr. Ramakrishnan, and then we will be having to summarize what we have understood from throughout Mr. Padmakar as well. So Ramakrishnan, one last question to you, sir.
Good evening, sir. I'm happy to see you. I need one clarification. Sir, recently we got implemented some labor codes from Government of India. Do you think any changes will be there for HR leadership in future?
I'm sorry, to catch your question clearly.
Yeah, due to this labor codes, do you think any dimensional change in HR leadership?
Okay.
See, the codes, the law keeps changing at different points in time. I've gone through the codes myself. It seems to be a lot of consolidation of the earlier laws with some bit of changes. What was called Industrial Disputes Act, etc., and Trade Unions Act, it seems to be merged into something called the IR Code, Industrial Relations Code, and so on. See, codes are there. We need to know law to the extent that we need to stay within the permissible side of law so that you don't play with law beyond the point that it scorches you. Law is law. Contracts are there. But do people work according to the contracts? It's not a perfect world. HR people cannot expect a perfect world. And secondly, HR people cannot believe and behave that they are the perfect people and that they are the God's gifts to mankind. This is one thing I see even in places. Some of the HR folks, when I meet in some other formations outside, I get amazed that I can't relate to them. They're like peacocks in suits, strutting around so much. Yeah, probably something goes to your head at a point in time. So legal frameworks, many of these are only enablers. Ultimately, what works in people management dimensions is two things. One is role modeling. How can we create as many role models as possible that many others who are shy, they're not in the spotlight, silent workers, every organization, this country is also working and progressing because there is a silent majority who's not seen, heard, applauded for, and die unsung. Organizations are like that. We are just a microcosm of that. In these, the focus should be on how can we be favorable to such unsung majority rather than those who are just operating right within your nose level and seem to impress you with very colorful PowerPoints or beautiful dressing and a lot of humbug through beautiful English, but actually not in doing anything at all. The most talented are ugly looking. They don't know how to dress well. They probably don't even know how to present themselves well to you. But I think ultimately it's us in HR who need to go beyond any framework, whether it is IR code or any codes, any contracts. Don't expect, they're doing that. They're doing the best that they can. but how can I uplift the individual and do good to them? And yes, like I said earlier, if someone is being very cantankerous and continuously troublesome, do fix them by all means. Um, but I would like to murder him immediately. I would like to take a hammer and then give a knock, maybe a harder knock, and then beyond a point, hammer him down into the earth and throw him out. Yeah, but not without opportunities. We need to understand, is the boss pernicious? Is this person pernicious? Many a time the bosses are pernicious, and everyone knows people leave organizations because of bad bosses, not because of bad organizations. So we also need to deal with these bad bosses. Most industrial relations episodes I've come across, which culminate in strikes and many of these things, have happened because of failure of communications and communication channels not kept open and not sharing the organizational truth as to where we stand at a point in time. And never make false promises is one thing that I've understood through my experience. And to begin with, they're shocked, they're hurt, they're angry with you. But very soon they understand that you're talking straight and you mean for their good. And yes, they can't have expectations beyond the frame. So I don't know whether I answered your question, Mr. Ramakrishnan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I got
Yeah,
it.
it's finally not the frameworks. They're there to guide us. It's like Ramayana is there to guide us, but every day what we see in life is only Mahabharata. That's what happens. More like that. Yeah.
True. Very relevantly told, sir. That's something excellent. So great. So wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So wonderful. All the participants, leaders from the different companies who are in here. Thanks very much. So let us summarize what all we've understood. So for this summary, I would just like to share what this mask leadership is all about. And in fact, today, Padmakar started with something called as a self-authority. And from there, that we understand definitely leading without authority is for the future. And that's what we're talking about. Leading without authority means the humbleness at which he is. Even it's not the position where we go, it is more important about the person, how is he? And that's what is going to lead us to the growth. And that's what we're talking about, the leading without authority here. And definitely that is number one. Number two, a lot of insights we have understood about the BPCLs, the leadership development, the growth, the constant approach. Wonderfully shared about those developmental strategies which you've understood as what all could be. We also understood about the future, how it is, where in fact, not only fossil fuels, there are other aspects of the other energies which is being taken into consideration, and developing people into that form. That's something mind-blowing. Hats off to you, sir. There are some of the very, very minute quotes which you all shared, which is very, very inspiring, and which is from the heart which you share, which I really like that, in fact, when you share it. Your Chennai experience with respect to behind the bus of what is written, that is something very good. So in fact, for the members as well as the visitors here, Mr. Padmakar is currently in Mumbai, and from there is where he has been with us. So this all is where the complete understanding. So thanks very much, Mr. Padmakar, sir, for sharing this wonderful experience with us. So for the people who have come here for the first time to this mask leadership community, let me share this with you, saying that this particular mask leadership community happens, Leaders Connect, named Leaders Connect, happens week after week, every Wednesday. And today it's just been a special episode on Saturday, every Wednesday evening, 6:30 to 7:15 p.m. it happens. And where we call every week a leader from the top management, where they share their success stories and life experiences, and just how today we have received so much of information, which is very necessary for us to understand this and just not live in understanding. Our role is to go more deeper to demonstrate what he has told to us. And one thing which I can understand from Padmakar is the more and more the demonstration, what all he has understood throughout his experiences, that is what is leading him from the top. And that's something really great. So thanks very much, sir. And let's identify, or let's share with you all the information, the next week's leaders as well. So the next week, corporate leader, we are talking about the next 2 weeks. The leaders from the top management is going to be there. The next week, we have one Miss Pallavi Sarkar. She is from the Schaeffler company from Pune. She is the head HR there. And then we also have the week after next, The week after next is Mr. John Alex, who's the director and the CEO of Equitas Holdings. So these are the 2 dates, which is all the Wednesdays. They've already been with us. So we'll get a lot of understanding and learning. In fact, next week, Wednesday, where Ms. Pallavi is going to share with us the art of giving. So though she's been the head of CSR, it's more of the more we give is what the more we get, and how that principle really applies, and how we as an individual can we actually grow in terms of giving, especially in this result-oriented world. And it's very, very necessary that we are understanding the art of giving, and that's one is going to lead us to the growth. So these all we will be seeing the upcoming week. So excellent members, as well as the visitors who are in here today, thanks very much. So Mr. Padmakar, so one last question to all our members as well as visitors. If you'd like to share anything, one last message to all the people here, because people who are here in this particular forum are from different industries and people who are working across different levels, and those are the people here. So what is that message you would like to give to these people for their constant growth in their leadership development?
There are 2 things. One is don't take yourself too seriously all the time, because in my experience, I went through that phase. When you take yourself too seriously all the time, you tend to be very condescending about everyone else around you, and that makes you very inaccessible, and you'll never know the many sides of the organizational truths to be corrected. And like I said, the shy unsung can never approach you. You become too formidable for them, and they walk away scared of you. And you also become a monster in the process. So whatever we may be performing, we may be HR, finance, or anything, for example, or a top IT leader, anything. So one thing is, therefore, you need to take yourself seriously up till a point, but also let the child in you remain forever. Because the child in you is that which makes you spontaneous, approachable, humorous, and you should be able to laugh at yourself. Because if you're not able to laugh at yourself, you will be too very serious and you will not be open to any constructive criticism at all. Last but not the least, everyone has some interest, some passion. We are doing a lot of these things for the sake of filling our bellies and to what we call as to become something as per what we think we have to become. But there's an inner being inside you which is always thirsting for a lot of things, which is about love, affection, friendship, appreciation. So let's understand this is also true of others, and so therefore stay grounded. But the most important thing to do this is, one of the beautiful connects that happens is if you're able to stay on with your passions in life, a serious hobby, a serious passion, anything. For example, if you watch movies, old Tamil movies, keep watching old Tamil movies and share that with someone else. Don't pretend you're reading only some high funda management literature because you're a CEO. But then some fellow will be able to connect with you and say, yes, sir, I remember T.M. Soundarajan used to sing like this and so on. So it connects immediately, and then people are able to approach you. And this also helps you expand in terms of your own capacities and capabilities. You're able to receive a lot of things when you stay in touch with these things. And it also makes you very expansive in your outlook. So this is one of the beautiful things I believe in. If going to a temple interests you, do that by all means, and then don't be shy about it. And you do something very unusual and then which others think is funny. We have a lot of gender coded things like men cannot do embroidery and women cannot do certain things. If you're able to break those barriers and you don't mind admitting what that is, ultimately there is a Ardhanarishwara in all of us. And as you know, the perfection comes when all sides of you come together. But try to do anything in your possibility to do that. But that can happen only when the child in you flourished. And it's not killed by your excessive seriousness called I am this, I am that, and so on. And yeah, that's it.
So wonderfully shared, the child in you, which should be flourishing. And that is when we actually have a lot of passion. Focus on the passion. That's something also really great. We need to be identifying. So thanks very much, Mr. Padmakar sir, for sharing that one last message to each one and all the members here, as well as the visitors who have been in here today. That's been a really great session. I understand we are a little behind the schedule, but nevertheless, it was really interesting to listen to you. It was really great in terms of, it's very inspiring to understand. So let's close with the formal one video, and let me share you that we also have our website at www.themaskleadership.com. So please feel free to visit the website to understand more about our previous leaders and our upcoming leaders who are going to be in, so that we understand more about how every human being has the ability to constantly grow. But the constant growth is actually depends on the human being themselves, and how, what, and that is what we are helping here all the people to grow into their respective leadership by this respective Leaders Connect process. So
Prakash, I would like to just take a minute to wish
sir.
all the people who have been here
Please, sir.
be an opportunity to connect up. And wishing you all the very best in your life, all joy, all happiness, all festive greetings.
Yes.
Let everyone stay blessed, and let us bless the universe completely for all happiness and joy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So let's have a formal one closing video or thank you video. So here is the video. So thank you one and all being here. So please ensure that you are also writing these learnings in the Telegram group, which we have. The Telegram group is all about the learnings, what we are taking away from this particular session, so that you are able to understand, other members also get benefited about this. So thank you one and all. Thank you, Mr. Padmakar sir, for being in here, and wish you all nice festive season. Thank you. And I understand there are some more questions which has been in the chat box. I completely agree that there has been, because of the time, we may not be able to take up all the questions. Mr. Padmakar, if those questions, if I'm sharing it with you, will that be okay with you, sir? Maybe through an email.
Sure. Either right now or later, any which way, I'll be happy to.
Definitely. There are some of the questions from our members as well as been asked, which I'll share it with you, so that the members, please stay in touch in the Telegram group. I'm sure we'll be able to do it. And my number is there on the chat box. People who wish to, week on week basis, if you wish to come here to attend this kind of a Leaders Connect and interact with all the top management leaders, please do share me a message on that particular mobile number, which is there in the chat box, and we will be able to add you to our Leaders Connect community. So thanks very much for being in all. And thank you, and have a nice weekend, and have a nice festive season to all. Thank you, everybody.
Have a lovely time.
Thank you, Mr. Bharat.
Take care. Take care.
Have a lovely time. Thank you. Thank you, sir.